Welcome everyone back to Shake the Zoom season 2. We had a pretty long break, but we're excited to get back into it. So excited to start talking more, shake the Zoom more. We're gonna get everything going till June. Promise that. Okay, so um it's like the last day or the last week of Women's Month. So in honors of Women's Month, we're dedicating this video out to all women. One second. To all women who have made like very impactful contributions to the world. And we're talking about like various women issues, things that as women we have to face on a daily basis, or things that we would have to face in our future because we're still young, we're still in high school. So by the time we get older, we got to face this type of discrimination. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is like sports, because I've noticed that there's a very big difference in sports when it comes to women's and men's. For example, the pay, like women get paid significantly less amount than men do in like almost every sport. And most people try to like basically validate this by saying how, oh, but no one watches women's sports, and how, oh, people like are more entertained by men's sports, this and that. But the only reason why less people watch women's sports is because they're less advertised. Like men get all the advertisement, they get all the videos, they get all the games, all the like, they get all the attention when it comes to sports. But then when it's women's, everyone looks over. There's 2K, that video game, right? That's like big promotion on male sports, and that makes like everyone so intrigued and so like prominent, and so like they just want to watch sports, men's sports, because that's all they've been seeing. That's all that they grew up seeing.
They have incorporated the WNBA in 2K21, so they are starting to make a change.
But that's the thing, 2K21, right? What happened to 2K? 2K to 20. We don't know. Like that's like saying all of a sudden women are just now starting to play sports, but women was playing sports in the 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. Last year, people was playing sports. So it's like, why are we just now getting the representation? And just because, like, I'm happy that now WNBA is in the in 2K, because like now for future generations, hopefully we could start moving towards getting equal pay in sports. But like the past generations, the people who have been working for years have been like Serena Williams, Gabrielle Union, all these other athletes who have been working so hard throughout these years haven't been getting the proper representation, just because they're women, and just because like people aren't as interested. Which, yeah. Does anyone else have anything to say about this? I'm gonna open the floor up.
I think that women's sports and women athletes aren't as what am I trying to say? Okay. They're not seen as important as men athletes, or they're not taken as seriously because, like you said, they don't have the platform as as men athletes do. And also, I believe that they're not as promoted as much because their funding isn't the same. It wouldn't make sense that a man playing, let's say LeBron James, playing basketball, right? He's making millions. He was making millions when he first started playing basketball. And what doesn't make sense is that some women that has been playing basketball longer than him is not making the same amount as him. And that's because they're underfunded. They're underfunded with their equipment. They're underfunded with how much they make. And that's because, well, they try to say because people are more interested in basketball, but men basketball, but there's no one that is investing as much as they invest in men basketball. They're not investing that much in women's basketball. That's why they're not equal. And that makes people not take women's basketball as seriously because they believe sports are for men. They're never for women. Women are meant to sit in the house. They have this old complex thinking, and the world is evolving. We cannot think like that anymore. If a man can do it, a woman can do it just like a man. So funding has a lot to do with the way women's basketball, women's sports in general is portrayed by society.
I would like to touch on how women are being constantly categorized in this, put in this category, how like they're only supposed to do certain things. Like there are only a certain amount of sports out there that women actually do get recognized for, and they get the attention or get the advertisements. Like you only see society paying attention to the women that play tennis, or they would play volleyball, or they would play, or even gymnastics, mostly because the men out there that sexualize, they're sexualizing the outfit choice of the sports. Being with tennis, you could wear a short skirt and a tank top, and with gymnastics you're wearing a leotard that, you know, is giving you wedgies. And for, they're getting attention for that rather than the talent that they have, while men, they're wearing shorts and tank tops. Sometimes they even have their shirts off, and they're not getting as sexualized as much as women do, while they're just getting money out of this, while women are getting hate, also getting hate and money, but not as much as men.
I want to say something. I feel like a woman can be 10 times better than the man, but still they're starting at like a different point in the race. Like they've been in this so long, people have just been like become so normal with just seeing men, and like people are like hard-headed when it comes to change. And and I feel like, you know, they could be running the same marathon and the woman would be starting 100 feet behind the men, and they just keep on running.
I want to add on to what Kiara was saying about the sexualization of women in sports. I feel like the idea of what sports a woman is supposed to play depends on the outfits of the sports as well. Like gymnastics is seen as a women's sports because of the fitted clothes and the outfits that they have to wear. Volleyball, when you hear of it, you don't think of male playing volleyball. You think of women playing volleyball because of the outfits. So I feel, not the outfits, but your uniform that you wear for your sport. So I think that that's where the idea comes from. What a man's sport is and what a woman's sport is depends on the appearance of the athlete. That has a big toll on why people think that's a women's sport and that's a men's sport, even though all sports are for people. It's no gender that has to do with anything. Like dancing. Dancing can be considered a sport, or cheerleading can be considered a sport. But when you think of it, you think of women. Or if you think of it, you don't think that's masculine, so men shouldn't even be doing that.
I wanted to add on to that too. Wait, Natalia, you go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add on to Tyler's point. So my sister, she's a basketball player, and she gets like downgraded for like the way she plays and everything. And she's just like, so underrated, because people like boys think that she's not good just because she's a girl, and boys think that she's just like that she can't beat them. But when reality, when she does, it's like, wow, I didn't know she can play like this. She's a girl. She's not supposed to play like this. And it's just like so underrated for a lot of girls. But yeah, I just want to say that.
What were you saying, Michelle?
I was gonna add on to what Maya was saying. I also think it has to do with like the sport itself and like the amount of contact, because like again, when you think of volleyball, right, and gymnastics, you're not thinking of like people fighting or people like attacking one another. Volleyball, you know, your two teams are standing at opposite ends of the court. You're not really interacting with people. You're hitting the ball. Whereas like basketball, soccer, football, you have to physically go and like attack the player. You have to go and defend, things like that. And like it comes down to when people think like women are so like ditzy and like so small and they don't like to fight, and like, that like stereotype that women don't do stuff, like they're belong in the kitchen, they're all small and like quaint or whatever. And it's like women can do like play football and like tackle whoever. Women can like become the hardest, the most like strongest player on your team. And it's like that's why like the sports that are seen as women's sports are the sports that are like less interactive with the other team. And then like men's sports are the ones that are more like physical, more like beaten down and stuff like that. Sasha, do you have anything you want to add?
I agree with what everything was said. Like, I play basketball, and like I feel like we're not given as much attention as the boys team, and I feel like that just needs to be changed.
Oh, I don't know if this happened. I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly, but like last year, 2 years ago, like when we were in school, and you know how they would do the pep rallies and stuff, and how majority of the pep rallies, it was always the boys, yet none of them like really went to championships. And how even though the girls teams were going to championships, they weren't being in the pep rallies, or they weren't given as much time and like hype. Because you would see like all the boys, everyone would be clapping and cheering and having each player individually run up and get their own omens. And none of them won championships or even made it to championships. But then when it was like the girls basketball team and the girls volleyball team, the girls volleyball team, actually, all the girls teams made it to championships 2 years ago. The volleyball, the softball, and the basketball. Soccer almost, but they didn't do it. But yeah, it's like girls, they do things like this, and they constantly show out and show that they got what it takes. But then instead of us being praised and like uplifted and congratulated for the work that they do, they're like, oh, well, the boys did it too. It's like, oh, well, other people do it too. And it's like, but why can't we get the praise? Like, why can't Sasha, a great basketball player, why can't she be running down the aisle with people cheering her name? Why can't I be yelling Yasmin's name, cheering her name, or Desiree? Why can't I be hyping them up, even though they're like one of the best players? Coach, pause it, Kyla. Don't stop, just pause.
Why you sound like you was on mute, but you wasn't on mute? That was scary. Like you opened your mouth, but you wasn't on mute. Yeah, like you was.
Oh, I was gonna say something,
but you wasn't
and
on.
I heard the recording. Okay, so our next topic that we have here is about the music industry and the sexism that is present in the music industry. And for this topic, we got the one and only K Breezy. What's your street name? Say Ra. We got her on the track.
Ra.
Come on.
Stop that. So just to talk on how there's misogyny shown throughout the music industry, and especially for women, is just the fact that when it comes to male rappers and male artists and what they rap about or what they speak about, they would get praised or positively looked at for what they're talking about, whether it being degrading women, slinging drugs, or even making a change in the world. While if a woman is singing about even similar things, slinging drugs, making a change in the world, or even their body being body positive, they will get bashed on and they will get talked about in a negative notation, while the other gender is doing the same thing and being looked at in a different way. So a song that I wanted to just bring about is the song Cry Baby by Meg Thee Stallion featuring DaBaby. They're very similar. In this song, it's kind of perfect because these two artists whose rap similarly in their songs are talking about the opposite gender in the same degrading way and talking about themselves in a positive way. Now, when DaBaby sings his songs and when he raps, he's always looked at as the man, and it's boosting his ego and other men's egos out there, while Meg Thee Stallion does the same thing for women, but in the men's eyes, it's looking as, oh, she's doing bad, or she's being called a treesh, or she's being called, you know, a whore or a hoe. But if you think about it, men can also be whores, men can also be treeshes, men can also be doing bad. So just a lyric that I wanted to present was in the song. He says, "Ooh, that little beep, a player." First of all, he's degrading the woman by calling her a beep, because there are other ways to be calling women in this case, but then also calling her a player as in, oh, she's out there, she's throwing herself for men, and she's, you know, putting herself in a position where she could be easily targeted. But while Meg Thee Stallion said later in that song, moaning like a bee when he hit this P, is also degrading the opposite gender in the male case, where where she is belittling the male's ego, calling him a bee in this case, and making the men step down to her level, while it's gonna have to be cut out.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I really like and understand what Kiara was saying about how in the music industry specifically, we see this like happen multiple times where men, they can talk any type of way about women. They can make a whole song about how they're, you know, having sex with a woman or doing intercourse or doing any type of other sexual acts with women. But the minute that a woman says something about her body or something sexual that she's done, she's immediately called a whore and like called a harlot. You know, things like her name is basically dragged through the mud just because she's expressing her more sexual side, which everyone has. You know, everyone has a more sexual side. Everyone has like that aspect of their life. And it's like, why do women always have to be conserved and like, what's it called? What's that word? Moderate? That's not the word. Have to be like...
Moderate.
It starts with an M. Modest. Yeah, it's modest. Women have to be more modest when it comes to things like that, where men can openly be like talking about it. I just watched that show Bridgerton on Netflix, and that like it would get me so mad watching it, because it's like things like that, and it shows you like the similarities between back then and now, and how women back then, they weren't even allowed to talk about sex. You know, they didn't even know what sex was. They didn't know anything about that. They didn't know how babies were made. Yeah, they were supposed to be ladylike, like Natalia said. They weren't allowed to do anything at all. They were only, you know, supposed to wear the tight dresses, the corsets. They're supposed to be all like friendly and all polite and stuff like that. Where the men, they could act and say anyhow. They could like talk about sex, have sex before marriage, after marriage. They could cheat on their wife. They could do whatever they wanted, and no one would even bat an eye. And it's like that has translated over the years and slowly has become more accepting in like today's world. But it's still at the point where a girl can rap about having sex and rap about doing sexual acts, and then she'll still be called these names and she'll still be put down and still be doing that. When we have all these male rappers doing the exact same thing. And I love how you use Crybaby, the song that you were talking about, as an example, because Megan and DaBaby, they've like, people have already known that they have very similar rap styles and they rap about very similar things. They both rap about having sex and the amount of sex that they have, and like they rap about their bodies and how much they love, you know, the opposite sex. And that's like what they rap about. And they do it in a way that is creatively progressive and creatively, like, you know, you could like, it's good, it's a good song. It's basically, it's a good song. And that's like how they do it. Yet in that song, Crybaby, even though they're both rapping about the exact same thing, DaBaby got zero hate for the things that he said, while Megan got a whole lot of hate. And they're like, oh, but why do women want men to have like, oh, they gotta have 6 figures, they gotta do this, yet they have like 700 bodies. This is why I don't like women. Women do this, women do that. And it's like, but like, you're like, guys could have 700 bodies and be broke, and you want me to go to that? If he has 700 bodies and he's rich, I'd rather have that. Like, I don't see why. You know what? Maya, go ahead. Let me stop.
Yeah, we need to move on because you lost me there. Okay, so what I want to talk about is, I want to add on to what Kiara and what some of Michelle was saying. So I feel like the music industry is not only, I feel like it's influenced from the toxicity. Is toxicity? That's a word, right? Toxicity.
Toxicity.
Okay, toxicity within our generation and like our parents' generation. So the time the music industry didn't have a lot of women, like it lacked women in the industry. So all people were hearing was the degrading things that men were saying. Let's say the first person that really came out was a woman rapper was like Little Kim. And Little Kim, if you watch the movie with Biggie, the old Biggie movie, basically she was more of, she wasn't really very sexual. Like she didn't have a sexual side. She was more like, not rough, but like she was rapping about what the men were rapping about. If she wanted to shoot up and, you know, do certain things, she wasn't rapping about, oh, I'm going to kiss him. Like she wasn't doing that. So what Biggie was saying, like that doesn't sell. So women have to talk about these things and talk about their bodies and be body positive because that's what sells. So it's like confusing because like, if this is what sells, if this is what y'all like to hear, this is what gets on the charts, why are y'all degrading me for doing this? This is people's living. They have to do what sells. You can't do things and be consistent with things that nobody's going to listen to. So it's society's fault for only listening to women being body positive, women being sexual. You can't say, oh, we don't like that, but that's what society wants. That's what you only pay attention to. There's many artists out here, like let's say Tierra Whack. Tierra Whack has been an upcoming artist for a very long time, but she doesn't rap like City Girls and Megan and Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. She doesn't rap like them. She's like a more of a Rico Nasty type of style. Rico Nasty's coming up too, but that's because Rico Nasty is more feeding into her sexual side. With her outfits, it's like anime sort of sexual thing she got going on there. And that's what people like. Tierra Whack is not as big because that's not her style. She doesn't want to do that. So most of these artists usually have to be sexual, like Coi Leray. She is becoming more sexual in a way. Like she's trying to be like a sex symbol in a way because that's what sells. And you can see where her music wasn't as popping when she was rapping like Lil Uzi and no, she had to show some skin for her to be where she's at right now. And that's what she's going to continue to do. So I feel like it's wrong for people. And I think these people know that it's wrong. And they know that they're like being hypocritical because it doesn't make sense that you guys don't want women to act like this or rap about this, yet this is what you give attention to. You don't want to acknowledge the Tierra Whacks. You don't want to acknowledge who else is not as sexual with their rapping. It's not a lot of them because y'all don't acknowledge these people. Y'all acknowledge the City Girls and Cardi B's, and nothing's wrong with that. I feel like they're grown women and they should be able to talk about and do what they want. people bash them because they feel like kids are listening to it and you're teaching these young girls. It's not their job to teach us young girls. Like, yeah, we look up to them, but it's y'all parents' jobs. Y'all shouldn't be, they're adult entertainers. So don't be mad because your kid is listening to this or you feel like your teen daughter is acting like them. That's not their job. People need to be mindful of what their kids are watching, with like people just try to bash them for anything, and literally this is what society wants. So I feel like everybody's being hypocritical with their thinking on the whole music industry, and I do feel like it's getting a little bit better. Let me know if y'all agree with me, because women are up right now. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Women rappers are up right now. This is the most we ever had of women rappers. We only had Nicki Minaj and Little Kim, and we're coming up right now. So I feel like it is getting better, but we have a long way to go with, you know, women being accepted for what they're saying, women being treated equally in this music industry. But I feel like it is getting better. We are stepping up and taking what's ours. What's better.
I have a question though. For all those women that have made it up in the past year or 2 years or whichever how much time it's been, do you think they're actually making their way up because of their music and how good and how much progress they've made, or is it because the less amount of clothes that they're wearing, like because they're showing more skin, you know, they're getting more recognition, they're getting more attention, or is it because they're actually, you know, progressing in their music and they're coming to make music more appealing to society and to their community and for the people out there that, you know, are looking for that type of music?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I feel like the rapping about sex and like having that sex appeal and that sex factor, it's like the attention jar, you know, it's the thing that grabs their attention. But the thing that really makes them stay is the lyrics, you know, the lyrical genius behind it, the way like the flow is, the way the music flows. And then if you truly like the artist, you'll go ahead and listen to their other songs that don't necessarily have to do with sex, and then you'll boost their ratings like that as well. So like I feel like it's the sex is just a shock factor. Like with Cardi and Megan's song WAP, WAP, right? That song, it was very vulgar, very thing. But then when you're listening to it, you're like, damn, like relax, you know, it's like a shock. It's like a shock thing. And then you want to keep listening to it because like the beat is good. The lyrics are a little shocking, but the lyrics are good too. And then after that, you want to listen to like similar flows, similar music, similar beats, and you'll go on and you'll listen to the artists, other songs, other like rap styles, things like that. And yeah, it's right.
I think that the media has a lot to do with a woman's success in this industry as well. I feel like for example, when Megan Thee Stallion won over Little Baby, they were in the same category, and I think I'm gonna use the BET Awards as an example. Though Little Baby had the song that was talking about Black Lives Matter and what was going on at that moment, people tried to argue that Megan shouldn't have won because Little Baby is a better artist in general. But I feel like the media has a lot to do with it. The media has become a part of all of our lives, everyone's life. People could deny it, but media has a lot of impact on the success that an artist has. And I feel like sometimes the music might not be as good, but because they're consistent on social media and they're posting pictures and they're they're interacting with their friends. I feel like interaction has a lot to do with a success, with a woman's or any artist's success in general. The way you present yourself on social media, if you look cute, if your hair is always done, you know, Eric and Tay, the girls that go to them, like that go to him, they're popular because of their influence on social media. So I don't feel like music alone. That was your question, if their music is what their success? That was your question? Like, is it the music or their lyrics?
Yeah, if their progression in their music and lyrics and stuff like that, rather than them showing their body or
their
getting
clothes
recognition off of.
I feel like it's all like in a it's all like a cycle to your success. So I feel like media is the most important part of it, because they want to know about your life. They don't want to just hear your music. And most of these women artists, they're very vocal about what's going on in their life. So their fans know who's their boyfriends. Their fan knows their kids. Like, it's more of a personal connection. I don't see, there's men that do that, but I feel like that's what comes with women in this industry, knowing about their life, not just knowing their music. Like, unlike Beyonce is very private with herself, but Beyonce earned her status. She's on a whole different level. She earned her status, and that's because Beyonce is like, you can't deny her talent. She doesn't have to show her body, but you know, sometimes she get a little sexy with her music, or sometimes with her outfits and stuff, but she's still private with her life. Other people probably can't do that. That's where the media comes into, and that's where they have to be more personal with their fans and their supporters. So I feel like it's not just music alone for some women. It's more of their personal life. It's more of their media. It's just more of their appearance it's never just your talent. It's always everything about that person.
Adding on is something that I've
realized.
Oh, well, real quick before we move on, right? Y'all know how Saweetie and Quavo broke up, right? I remember seeing so much hate on Saweetie, and she was saying how Quavo was the one who cheated on her. Even though Quavo was in the wrong, I seen so much hate towards Saweetie, talking about, oh, Quavo brought your name back, Quavo put you back in the books, Quavo did this, Quavo did that. And to me, I'm like, Saweetie brought Quavo back. You know, it takes me a couple seconds to realize which Migos brother he is. So it's like, why is it that when it's just a man and a woman, y'all automatically uplift the man and belittle the woman, even though it's like one is obviously more talented, one is obviously more like, has more media coverage, like Maya was saying, has more like engagement with her followers, more like, she's just more popular, more like popularity with everything. And I just found it interesting how people were constantly bashing Saweetie and telling her that like she wouldn't have been anything if Quavo hadn't basically picked her up, even though we was all bumping Icy Girl in 2017. Mad weird, but yeah. So let's move on to women in the industry. So we have two like brilliant women today that we wanted to like quickly talk about, quickly like bring attention to. Maya, would you want to go first on Lori Harvey or?
So right now she holds a special place in my heart, rent free, and it has to be Lori Harvey. And I would say Lori Harvey, I look up to her because of the way she handles herself and the way that she handles when she gets backlash. So most women in the industry, you know all their business. You know when they break up with their significant other, you know just everything in their personal life. And I look up to Lori Harvey because there's a lot of like rumors about her, and I feel like she handles it so well. I don't even know what Lori Harvey sounds like, because she doesn't come on social media. She doesn't feel the need to have to defend herself because she knows her truth and she knows her worth. And I feel like if all women knew their worth, this world would be a better place, because we are powerful creatures. Like literally, we bring life. Like we're the most powerful. I feel like we're the most powerful creatures, and we should be praised for that. And Lori Harvey, I feel like her knowing her worth and knowing that she's the prize, it just inspires me so much, because I just feel like what she teaches me is that if someone isn't teaching you how you feel you should be worth, then you don't have to be with that person. You don't have to be around people that doesn't treat you how you think you should be treated. It's all you at first. You can't think or you can't want someone to treat you a certain way if you don't treat yourself a certain way. Lori Harvey has been with a lot of males in the industry, and she has a powerful caliber of men that she's around. And that's because she treats herself and she knows her worth. She doesn't, how do I put this in words? She doesn't settle for less than what she deserves, basically. And I look up to that because there's a lot of women in this industry that tolerate inappropriate behavior. If it's a man cheating on them, if it's a man embarrassing them on social media. You never see that with Lori Harvey because she knows her worth and she always practices being with men, like being with men or being around people that treat her right. And that's just so powerful and empowering to me because this generation, I feel like there's a lot of disrespect towards women, right? We all been disrespected at one point in our life by the opposite sex and sometimes by the same sex. And I feel like the way you handle it makes you, I just envy the way that she handles herself and the way that she presents herself to the world. And I envy that she doesn't tolerate anything less than what she deserves. And I just feel like I'm gonna practice that. I watch videos on her. She's like the definition of femininity. And that's just why I envy her.
Yeah, I love Lori Harvey. I love her so much. Like, just like what Maya was saying, like the way that everyone's always talking about, oh, she's passed around, she's this, she's that. Yet she has never once like spoken out and be like, oh, y'all don't know what you're talking about. I haven't done this or that. Like she never feels the need to explain herself because again, she knows her worth. Like she doesn't want to bring herself down to your level. She's going to uplift or like find people who are already at her level. Like that's the type of person she is. And that's like the type of person I want to be, like someone who's not going to pick somebody up. You know, somebody who's like, I'm not going to lower my value, lower my self-worth to be with somebody who's not even worth my time. I'm going to be with somebody who is worth my time, someone who's at the same level as me, so we can grow together and progress together. And that's what I feel like a lot of people need to realize and a lot of people need to start doing. Because like Maya said, we bring life. Like we are the most powerful. And in fact, I was reading a study. Scientists were saying in like 30 years or so, in like 20 years or so, women will be able to procreate without sperm at all. They were able to successfully do this on mice while using cells from the body, stem cells, and then fertilizing the egg with the stem cells, which caused the egg to be fertilized. So like soon, we won't even need men to make babies. We could just make babies with our own body. Woman, man.
So would the baby look just like you since it doesn't have any like
probably
their genetics?
Yeah. Maybe not like just like you, because you know how DNA is. If you change one little thing, like you could have longer eyelashes.
Only my DNA.
Who else DNA would it be?
I mean, where are the stem cells from? Can I take stem cells from someone else?
It's Kira. The whole point is that you're procreating with your own body. That's the whole point. You're taking cells from your own body and impregnating your egg with it. So
doesn't it need something that I don't have? How is that gonna? Okay.
What don't you get? You're taking cells from your body. Okay.
Let's move on.
Person I wanted to talk about is Miss Rihanna Fenty, right? And I feel like she just needs the recognition and she needs the praise because she deserves all of it. She started her career as like a girl from a girl from Barbados, you know, just rap, like singing her songs, you know, doing little songs, writing little singles, whatever, right? And she was able to take this and turn it into like this multi-millionaire industry where she has a clothing line, she has a makeup brand, she has a skincare brand. And it's just like, she was able to accomplish all of this in such little time because if you really look at it, she accomplished all of this within 3 years. Her makeup brand came out in 2018, 2017. Skincare came out in 2018, 2019. And then her lingerie brand came out like early last year. And it's like people, when you think of Rihanna, people automatically think of music, but I think of all these successes. I think of Fenty Beauty, Fenty Skin, Savage X Fenty. I think of all these things because she has made it so that her career is not just music. And the way, like, I feel like is the best because the way she was able to take such a long break from music and still be relevant, even without producing anything else, is like just so amazing. And it shows like how much impact that she really had because she was not putting out any music at all. and still hasn't put out any music, but people were still talking about her name. People were still like, oh, what's Rihanna doing? Like, when's the next album? When's the next song? Like this and that. She bring out this like makeup brand. People are talking about her name even more. Still no music, but she's still like, her name is still in the media. Her name is still relevant. Her name is still like all over social media, because like with social media, like Maya was saying, everyone has it, everyone uses it, especially like makeup and clothing and like skincare, things that like been on the rise lately. It's like influencers are now using those products and sharing it with their followers are sharing it with their friends, those friends are sharing it with their families, and it's like these work, like it's constantly revolving. Yeah, I like, that's all I want to say about Rihanna. You know, she deserves all the praise, all the love she gets.
Bad girl Riri not only is doing it for the black girls, she doing it for all girls. She has so many shades, like, and like she just represents all women, not just black women, but she makes sure everyone in her makeup brand has a shade. And I love that about her makeup line, because I know when I watch YouTubers, it's hard for women of color to find a shade for them because makeup wasn't originally made for us. Like if you look at pictures of Aaliyah, or if you look at pictures back then of Beyonce, their makeup wasn't given what it was supposed to give, because there was nothing out there for women of color. Rihanna was the start, not saying she was the start of that, but Rihanna did a lot for just women all over. She has like how many shades? She has like a lot of shades in her collection, like 50. Nah, she don't have no 50. That's OD. But Rihanna did her thing.
She expanded to 50. She started with 40 and then expanded to 50.
50 shades. She's making an impact on the world for all women. Women that are Caucasian, women that are dark. Like she's doing it for everybody. And I love that.
And her lingerie line, like that makes all women of like any body types feel like so confident in themselves. Like you could see big girls wearing Savage X Fenty feeling like mad confident. You could see like really skinny girls, really small girls wearing the same stuff, feeling mad like confident in their body. And I feel like that's just what she is. Like that's what she encompasses, like confidence for all women, making sure you feel comfortable in yourself and your own skin, your body.
All her makeup smells so good.
She's doing it for the culture, and she's doing it for the woman culture. Like she's just doing it for everybody, and I love that. Okay, what's our next topic? Is it the medical
field? And today we have a very special guest.
Okay. We're gonna dive into this medical field thing. So I'm gonna spit out some facts real quick that I had looked up. Hi. So we have a special guest today. But before we get to the special guest, I'm gonna give you guys some facts that I found on the medical field's effect on Black women. So for a long time, people have believed that people of color, not even just women, but people of color don't feel pain as other races do. And we all know that's like 100% not true. Pain is pain, and we're all human beings, so that's not valid to say. So I'm gonna dive into gynecology, and that's just a practice for women. So the founder and the father of gynecology is James Merrin Sims. He was a former slave owner, and he decided, because during the time there wasn't any it was seen as inappropriate, or it was seen as disrespectful to perform on women, and especially not down there for women. So he wanted to help women. So he started off by wanting to help women that like fell off of horses and hurt their backs or hurt their pelvic area. That's where he started. That's when people started to like acknowledge, okay, maybe this is not that bad. So James used to only practice, and this is like experimental practices he used to do. He used to do it on former like enslaved Black women. And with these Black women, he didn't give them any type of anesthesia. He didn't give them any of that. So these women were feeling everything that he was doing to them. And he basically tried to say that this was okay, or try to, what's the word? I don't know the word right now. But he tried to say this was okay because Black women don't feel pain as white women. And we know this is not true. So what he used to do was he used to get enslaved women, and he wouldn't just use his enslaved women. He would use enslaved women from other other owners and masters. And basically what he would do was okay, I'm going to do these experiments on these women, and in exchange to help your slave woman be healthy, they're just going to be my property for a little while. And back then, if it was your property, you could do anything with them. You could kill them if you wanted to, and there would be no consequences against you. So he would perform these practices on these women, and these women would be feeling anything. His first patient ever that he performed on was 18 years old, and she had given birth not too long ago. So what he came up with some procedures that we use today, and he basically shaped the whole he was the founder of gynecology. So he basically shaped what doctors use today. One thing that he did was, I'm trying to find the procedure that he basically came up with using Black women. Okay, I can't find it, so just cut that portion out. So now that you guys know a little bit about that, I have some questions to ask you guys. So how do you think history shaped the way women are treated in the medical field today?
I remember seeing something about how since throughout history, how, well, in the medical field, right? When you're learning about certain things, they're in the textbooks that were written ages ago, they're not shown so many Black women or people of color in the textbooks, in the pictures and the diagrams. So they don't know how to identify certain types of infections, diseases, or bodily implications on women of color, on Black women, which is why many Black women can go a long time without being properly diagnosed, because they're not taught that in the medical field. And Maya was saying, how Black women were seen they're not allowed to feel pain, or they don't feel pain as white women. It also goes back to slavery, when Black women were being raped and beaten, and people didn't really care, because it's well, she's an animal, it's not she's not a human, she doesn't feel pain like me, I could do whatever and it won't affect her the same way it would affect someone else, even though these some of them were kids, they were 10 years old, 12 years old. Maya said the first girl was 18 years old, I'm 17. That's things that would affect you mentally and physically, and that would hurt, obviously. So it's that has just conditioned people to this day to think that Black women feel less pain, which is also feeds into the stereotype that Black women are more aggressive and more manly, I guess, than white women, because they don't feel as much pain, or they're not as fragile. They're their egos are a lot stronger, their attitudes are a lot stronger. It also plays into white fragility, how you have to protect the white woman, you have to protect the way she thinks, the way she acts, this and that. But when it comes to Black women, you could be so blunt and so direct with what you're saying, because you don't care about her feelings or the way she would react to the situation. And then when she does react negatively, you'll paint her as the angry Black woman.
I agree, and I find it surprising that doctors and people in the medical field aren't taught how to diagnose or properly treat African Americans and people of color, because you guys basically built this medical field off of people of color. So it just doesn't make sense, or doesn't click in my head how you can't properly treat these people if you use these people to figure out how to treat the needs of Caucasian people. It just doesn't really click to me. And I feel this racism in the medical field comes from generations of racism, like Jim Crow, where some people, like African American people, weren't allowed to be in a white hospital, or white people weren't allowed to be in a black hospital. That showed like how that basically shaped the racism in the medical field because of the separation or the difference that people thought in these people, like the difference in the way these people's bodies are built. By separating them for many years, it just shaped the medical field, and that hasn't been broken yet. And that's what we need to break, because we're all human beings and we all are like, we all need the, like, we're all the same. And yeah, so we could go move on, and we have our special guests, and we would just like to hear like some of your experiences being a doctor, and if there are any challenges that you have to face being a Black woman in the medical field.
Miss Thomas, I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Thing that I would like. Can you hear me?
I think it cut out again.
Can you hear me?
Miss Thomas, you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right, cool. Yeah. So I guess I was just saying, who I was, and that I thought you guys were doing a really good job. And the only thing that I would like to add on is that I think when it comes down to medicine, especially now, because it was definitely old book medicine, but now they do have a lot of our faces. They do have a lot of us in the book. And I think it's because it's no denying the fact that exponentially African Americans have higher rates of many things in medicine. So there is no denying at this point, where we are in 2021, our statistics. And I think that, the fundamental foundation of it is from what you guys referred back to slavery and the treatment of women and men alike, and how that led to so many things going unrecognized and untreated. I think that what we lack in medicine now is the ability for many that practice medicine to show compassion or to show some relation to that, to people who don't necessarily look like them. So if you're going to a school of medicine in which you don't have many people that look like you, if you are doing your rotations and you are not practicing on many people, of diverse backgrounds, then it leaves a bracket of practice, of relationship off the table. And then if you're not getting that in the beginning, then that kind of continues to how you may practice, for the rest of one's career. I mean, of course, there's certain morals and ideals in medicine that everybody is supposed to stick to, but there's also underlying things that we have learned, since childhood, given whatever family background and things that we grew up in. So that's a major factor. Is not just learning in medicine. We all are the same. The things that separate us from being different is certain habits, certain things that have developed more in our communities based on things like access to care, right? Based on a lot of other things that need to be supplemented, not just from medicine, but it goes out broader, which affects the way that we deal with certain disorders and treat different disorders, fear about treatment about different disorders. So it puts us in a bracket in which we have experienced an exceptionally high amount of heartache due to the rates of disorders, diseases, and lack of treatment. As far as myself, I do work in urgent care and emergency medicine. I guess my experience in healthcare has been one of gratitude. I went to a school that was in our community, right? Our community has to be labeled underserved because it's true. We don't get the same things as other people, so it's an underserved community. But in going to school, I had access to my people, so I was able to learn with the same people for the most part, because even the schools in our communities, as far as a African American, I probably was one of two. We had, other people from other places, and then other groups, Caucasians and other groups in our communities. So that's the school that I went to. I was able to go to Harlem Hospital, rotate there. I was able to, go to in Queens and other places, to learn and to truly try to treat our people the same way, that we would want our family members to be treated, that we would want to be treated. And I think that's important to have a foundation like that, because it carries a long way. I live in Long Island, so I don't really practice that much in the city for right now, for a multiple, amount of reasons. One being travel and with COVID and everything else. But I do practice medicine in Long Island, and the demographic is a little bit different, especially at a lot of places I go to. So I float to different locations in Long Island. And, we do have a large Caucasian population of patients. That doesn't change my treatment of them, but it does change their vantage point of being treated. So when they come in, and if I'm the only provider that's there, they're seeing me. However, they see me first as a Black woman. They see me second as a woman. And right when I open that door, after an MA or a scribe has gone in, you can see their faces like, who is this coming in the room? But after you go in there and you have to prove yourself. So at this point, medicine, we used to see maybe 13, 20 people, a day. During COVID, post-COVID, per provider, we're seeing upwards to 60, 65 people plus a day. So I'm unable to just go in a room, see a patient, help them, diagnose them. I have to go in there and tell them where I went to school, show myself approved enough for me just to have a conversation to help them and, to get better. So it is a struggle. I am grateful for the position that I'm in now, because I don't get tired from it. I think that it's necessary. I'm pleased that when I'm done with them, they leave the room asking if I can be their provider, their primary care. And I tell them no, because it's, urgent care. So, we don't do primary care. But it's for every encounter or every other encounter, you have to deal with that. So I think as Black health professionals that are not working in underserved areas. If you're working in with our people, it's very, easy, even though there still is a stigma within ourselves as well, which can be a little bit, awkward. But with our people, it's a little bit better versus having to show yourself approved with other cultures. But if you can, in a way that is not so defensive and aggressive, it can make for a better situation for someone the next time. So that's always one of the goals that I have when I go to work. Even though it's an extra stress, I think, it's going to benefit, medicine in the future. Anything to benefit our people, we all have a part to play in this. So it shows people a little bit of themselves. People lack self-reflection sometimes. But after an encounter and after you're able to help when nobody else was able to help them, once you found an answer that no one was able to find, it helps people self-reflect. And we hope that once they leave that encounter, it will make them just a little bit better, if not for the next encounter at the hospital, even for the next person, of color that they meet on the street. So that's just, that's my contribution. I think that, for African Americans, Hispanics and other minorities that come in for medical treatment, there's a whole nother thing of, feeling uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable because of the centuries and generations of being treated less than. So and then what happens with that is now we get a cycle back, and sometimes we hurt ourselves from not seeking certain treatment, which makes us worse, in the future. So I don't know what has to happen. It's definitely a whole movement that needs to push forward in medicine so that we can finally get each other healthy, so that we can live the way we want to, right? We have so many struggles, so many pandemics, so many plagues, and being unhealthy as minorities is a big time factor that we all need to address. Outside of the blatant racism that we see, this underlying racism that's insidious, that can be helped, if we all are just open-minded about it.
Well, I want to thank you for your input. I feel like that really expanded our knowledge and helped us understand more from a medical point of view the situation, because you are a doctor, so you see and you encounter it more firsthand. Do you guys have any questions for?
I don't have any questions, but I'm sorry that you have to go through that every chance or every other time that you do receive a patient, or you would have to prove yourself to someone just so that you could, help them. It's kind of aggravating. So I just wanted to say that.
Aww. And honestly, I don't know how you would do it, because if I walked into into my office and I see someone sitting there basically asking me to prove myself worthy of working for them, I would tell them to get out. Get out. You're in urgent care. You need urgent care. We don't have time for me to basically explain to you why I'm qualified. If I wasn't qualified, I wouldn't be here. Simple. If I didn't have what it takes to help patients, to help you with what you're dealing with, I wouldn't be here, simply put it. So you don't need it's just it's irritating, and it's just frustrating how Black women constantly have to prove themselves in order to be seen as equal, or seen as I don't know, they could even have the chance to take care of someone.
That goes for any woman in any career where they have to prove themselves, even with being music, sports, at their office job. They would always have to one up the next person, or it's either they're at the top for doing what they're for doing what they do, or they're at the bottom with like constantly having to prove themselves or having people to recognize them for what they are here for, because they obviously are doing something right because they've made it to this point, but they shouldn't have to constantly show this or, you know, prove it.
Kyla, I know that you wanted to get into the medical field, so like, what do you feel about all of this? Because I know like that's something that you really are prominent on.
I mean, I guess it's kind of a more of an eye opener and like a realization that I really want to do this. Yeah, that I really want to do it since there are so many people, and just to prove that I can do it, and you know, be one of that 1 out of 5 Black women in the medical field. So yeah.
So you find it more of as a motivator than like a discourager?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So makes me want to work harder to get there.
What's one thing that you're like kind of scared about or nervous about, knowing that like you want to get into the medical field and then hearing Miss Thomas's experience and her stories?
I mean, I feel like the most crazy thing that I feel like I would have to deal with is like the questioning my authority and like my ability to do that just because of my skin tone and because I'm a woman. I mean, like, I don't think I would have made it this far if I wasn't qualified. And you know, and to work so hard for something and then have someone question it, it's just like, I'm trying to help you, let me do what I do and go on with the rest of my day.
Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Thomas, for talking about the medical field and your experience. I really appreciate it. I think we wanted to have Coach talk about his experience as well. He said that he had a story he wanted to tell about his mother. If you can get him on, that would be great. Or
Just
text him or something.
give me 1 second. What I want to say is that it definitely should not, this story was not to discourage anyone. You know, when you practice anything at a high level, you will reap rewards, right? So that you'll be able to bring the next person up. So in that, you still have rough pathways ahead in all things, right? That's life. But these rough pathways can be smoothed out a little bit, but it's still absolutely great to just excel in whatever it is you want to excel in. And if it's medicine, because we need a bunch of you guys, you know, it'll be good to change the face, you know, of everything so that everything looks a little bit more like us so that we can get out of this area. But we just, in doing so, just like with everything, we just have to learn ways to, even though it's annoying and we have to do it as women, we have so many superpowers, like you guys mentioned. So if you can figure out to do something in a way to make people feel good so that you can rise on top, I mean, it gives you the ability to make a better life. It gives God the glory for those who believe, and it gets people healthy, right? So it's so many different things that come forward. But in saying that, you ladies, give me a second and I'll go get Coach, okay?
Since we're still talking about the medical field, wait, Natasha, are you done?
What you said?
Oh, I was just about to say something about the medical field.
God. Wait, why is everyone's cameras off? Please,
Okay.
everyone, put your cameras back on. We not taking no breaks, no breaks. Kyla, Kiara, Sasha, cameras on, please.
I'm hungry.
Cameras on, please.
You gotta give me 1 second.
And Sasha P in the building, I peeped.
Kyla, Benoit. Good. Okay. What were you saying, Natalia? Wait, did it start a new one or did you pause it?
Paused.
Okay. So about the medical field.
I'm gonna turn my camera off. I'm eating.
Okay, so about the medical field, I just wanted to put an example about how Black women are dismissed in the medical field. I don't know if you remember. Did y'all remember when this Black lady was taking care of her home attendant, and the white lady spit on the Black lady? I don't think so. Do you remember?
Yeah, that video that was going
Yeah.
on TikTok.
Yeah. I was just like, that could be like an example because in the video, the white lady was just like being very disrespectful, like not respecting her and just downgrading her just because she was just Black and she was her home attendant, and it was very, very disrespectful. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point about that video and that home attendant.
And I feel like that video, it really shows the amount of restraint and like control some Black women need to have. Cause me, if that woman spat on me, the way I would have smothered her in her sleep, like I am your care dependent. Like I am the person taking care of you. You rely on me to live. And you're over here spitting at me, spitting apple chunks at me, talking about, oh, you want some more, eat it. Like you're treating me like a slave when I don't need to be here. You could be on your own. You could be like dying on your own and I could do nothing at all. I'm your care dependent. They need to realize that like, honestly, as like, we don't owe anybody anything. As Black people or as Black women, we don't owe anybody anything. We don't owe people anything. So that woman, for her to be spitting at that woman, talking about like, yeah, eat it. Like, she doesn't need to be here. She gets paid to be there. Like, she doesn't need to. She could do whatever she wants to you in your house with no one around, and you're spitting at her, you're treating her poorly. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. And it just shows how the older generations, they constantly think, speaking of older generations, it's like I hate how they like had that mindset like, oh, you need to respect your elders, you need to do this regardless of the way the elders are treating you. Like if the elders is being rude and disrespectful to me, I'm not going to continue being respectful to them. That doesn't make sense. You earn respect, it's not given. If you treat somebody the way you want to be treated. That older woman, she was treating that woman, like that Black care dependent, very poorly, very disgustingly, expecting her to continue to be kind, continue to like clean up after her, continue to like care for her. But in reality, that's not the case with many things. It's like if you're disrespectful with someone, they're going to be disrespectful to you back. And that's just how it is. And again, on the topic of like women not owing men or anybody anything, like I hate how like with the topic of catcalling, things like that, how people are like, oh, but it's a compliment. You should say thank you. Like they're just trying to like tell you you're pretty, this and that. It's like, okay, I don't need to say thank you. I don't need to respond to you. I don't need to do anything because at the end of the day, you're a grown man and I'm a minor. I don't need to speak to you. I don't need to like pay you any attention. And the fact that there are so many women getting like assaulted and killed and like kidnapped just because they didn't respond, just because they like kept on moving, it just shows like people are so entitled. Like they think that they deserve everything, like the little bit of kindness. Like you don't do nothing for me, therefore I don't need to give you the same kindness you think you're giving me, because it's just creepy. It's not kind, it's creepy.
Like, why would I want to take a compliment from a 50-year-old man?
Exactly.
What's wrong with
Okay, I'm gonna text Coach and see what's up with that. Kyla,
That was not
what
okay.
would you do?
Oh.
And back to our paid program.
Okay, y'all. So I just want to say, well, before we close out, before we get off this, something that we've seen in the media lately, something that we feel like as, I don't know, like with the little platform that we have, we should really be speaking out on is the rise in Asian hate crimes. I feel like this is something that people really like look away at, and it's not something that people speak out on as much. And I feel like that's mainly because of the way the media and like older generations has conditioned us and younger generations into thinking like most of these Asian hate crimes are jokes or like seen in a joking way, which I personally never saw them as like funny or okay, but I've seen other people who are my age that would do like low-key racist stuff towards Asian people, and instead of like other people speaking out like, oh, that's like not okay, they would say things like, oh, but they're just joking, like, oh, it's a joke, it's a joke, it's a joke. But then you got to think about the people who are receiving the hate, the other side of things. Like, do they see it as a joke? No, because they're kids like you, they're the same age as you. You're hating on them, you're like discriminating against them for something that they really cannot change. People are dying because of this. Like, people are getting attacked each day. And I feel like with COVID cases and all of that, with the freaking former president labeling the coronavirus as the Chinese virus, things like that, subtle things like that, that people are like, oh, but it was a joke. It's a way to validate the hate. It's a way to like validate and make it okay, when in reality it's not okay, and it's not like something that should be taken lightly, because it's a hate crime, it's discrimination. The same way I wouldn't want someone making a racist joke towards me or towards any Black person, I wouldn't want them making a racist joke towards any Asian person, any person of color. It doesn't like, and especially when the joke is coming from a white person, because I don't want to get into like my school and stuff, but when the joke is coming from a white person, someone who is not directly affected by the joke itself, that's like when it becomes like simply not okay. Because me as a Black person saying a joke about Black people and Black struggles, I face Black struggles, I am Black, I can relate to the joke, and I am the joke. I'm making the joke about myself, about my experience, and that's okay because it's about yourself, it's about your experience. But now it will a white person who has never felt the same struggles as a Black person, or the same struggles as an Asian person, same hate as any other person of color, make a joke about their struggles, minority struggles. It's like, but you don't know anything about that. Why are you joking about this? It's not something that you can joke about. It's not something that you're allowed to joke about, because you are the person, or you are the type of people who are causing us the harm, if that makes sense. Like, you guys are the ones who are putting this harm on us. You're inflicting the discrimination, you're inflicting the racism on us. So why are you joking about something that we find so serious and something that we find so like upsetting? Well, thank you guys for watching our Shake the Zoom season 2 episode something. We're not quite sure on that part, but we're very happy to have this platform to talk about certain issues that we want to talk about, things that we feel like are important. Yeah, so we're just trying to close out a little bit. And yeah, if you have any questions, make sure to DM us. You could comment them on the YouTube, but mostly DM us, because that's where we're usually on Instagram, at connectiveinc.sof on Instagram.